Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Snowman tutorial. How are you? Couple more days till Christmas. What's today? The 17th? Hopefully everyone's ready for the holidays. Okay. And my dog, I must have a delivery, so if you can hear my dog bark, just ignore him. Welcome, everybody. Make sure everything's on. If you can join me live, say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're crafting along or just watching, if you're catching this on the replay, you know the drill. Throw your comments in the, throw what you're doing in the comments. So, the snowman, I'm going to get some stuff out of the way. Some have already done it. We've seen some pictures of one snowman out there. So these are fairly self-explanatory. If you've done crafts with me before, you kind of have an idea of how the layout's going. You know what score marks are and all those things. So don't feel like you have to wait for me to do the craft. You guys can just go right ahead. Let's see, I'm just pulling out my colors here. So I am using a white. I'll just lay them out here. For those of you who aren't getting the paint pack, we've got white and orange, a brown, and a blue, and a black. Those are the colors we're using. I use Sherwin-Williams paint. I buy it in the little sample packs, and then sometime, well, most of the time, let me back up. I start out by buying a sample pack in the color that I want, and if I like that color or love that color and I want to incorporate it into my paint kits and things like that, or classes, I'll buy the quart size. And I just love doing that as opposed to the craft store paints now, because I live in a rural area and getting to a craft store with paints is somewhat difficult. So that's the number one reason why I prefer just using house paint. It's readily available to me. The second reason is, one, I can match any color I want, so I can go and make a custom color very easily and have it remade over and over, right? And two, the color choices are endless. So three, but on the downside, you do have to buy, that sample pack, which is a lot of paint. And if you're just trying out colors, that can be, maybe an expense there. Although I try and buy all my new colors when the samples are on sale. So a lot of times, like Sherwin-Williams, wait, did I say Sherwin-Williams? I meant Benjamin Moore. Have I been saying Sherwin-Williams this whole time? Benjamin Moore. I use Benjamin Moore paint. I think I've been saying Sherwin-Williams. Oh my gosh. Anyways, a lot of times you can get them on sale where they're 50% off. And so I usually have a cart of colors that I want to try. And when they go on sale, I just buy the cart, and that's how I do it. And then if I love the color, I buy more of it. So, anyways, Gabby here. Let's get started. I should have been running my timer, and I wasn't. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, let's talk about the pieces. We talked about the paint. You will have a ribbon. Where's my ribbon? I gotta have all my stuff out. Okay, so you should have a bag in your pack that has the ribbon and a string. The string is for the key, so I'm going to put that back in my bag for tomorrow. We'll put that off to the side. Okay, so you have your ribbon and your pieces here. So let's talk about that. This is the piece. This is the base. It's got the tab at the bottom that slots into your pail, basket, or mason jar. And then it's got these lines here. These are score lines. I call them also guidelines. This is letting you know that a piece is sitting on top in that area, which, there we go. This layers on top of that. So now we have 2 layers. Okay. And then these pieces, the nose goes here. You've got your guidelines there. The arms go here for those guidelines. And then all of these snowflakes can go anywhere. Okay, except for this one. I like to call this the disco one, just because the balls remind me of something disco-y. This is the only one that's really got a place that it's supposed to go. These 3 can just kind of go wherever you want. So in this case, I put the small one down on top of the snowman, and then there's one here and one here. And mine broke there. So the snowflakes are a little fragile, so be careful with those. So those are the pieces for this kit. Start out by taping down your pieces. And then for paint, I am probably just going to use a little liner brush, a flat, maybe a flat, I'm not sure. But most of the work is going to be done using the makeup wedges that I have here. And so there we are. That's what we're going to do. Let me get a new plate out here. New surface. All right, let's start this timer. Let me try and get to it here. Okay. We'll leave this up here for our example. The picture also gives you an example of what it looks like. So, use that, zoom in, get into the group. I think I have a picture in the group. If you're wondering where things go or how things are put together, those pictures help a lot. So let's get started. I'm going to start with my base. The first thing that I do typically when I'm working on a project is I'll tape off. So my prep work is taping and getting everything ready. And then I go through and paint everything. So I'm going to paint all of these pieces. And then once they dry, I sand and do a second coat. Then I do some detail work and then I assemble it. So we're going to start with white. Everything is going to get a coat of white to start with. Okay, now remember that this snowman sits on top here. So we don't need to paint the snowman body here, but I am going to make sure I get all of these snowflakes. So using that makeup wedge, we put a little bit of paint here. Let me just talk about that real quick in case you've missed the other videos. Sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. Oh, yes, there it was. Load it up and then unload it. Tap it on the side. That helps that paint soak into that makeup wedge. You don't want to have a lot of paint here. You don't want it globbed on. We're going with light coats so it dries fast. And it's just a tap, tap, tap right on top. That way we're only painting the top of the piece and we're not worrying about painting in between all of the snowflake edges, because that would be a pain. Now if you do want to paint all the edges of this piece, I do recommend maybe doing a spray paint method, just because trying to get inside there with a brush or any sort of tool would be, in my opinion, a nightmare. Some might find it calming to sit and work on that. That is not something that I prefer to do. So again, we're just touching, painting the snowflakes part of this base. It's a medium pressure, tap, tap, tap. And I'm going right over the arms portion of it. I'm not going to be too particular about that because those do get covered up as well. So painting them is no big deal. Because the snowflakes are kind of sitting in between, I'm just painting the arms. You know, you don't have to worry about not painting those pieces. They're going to get covered up anyways. There we are. Now white is one of the colors that takes a couple coats to cover. So because we're working with light coats, this first coat is going to be kind of splotchy and not all that great. And that's okay. We just want to get our first coat. It's kind of a seal coat, splotchy, messy. That's all right. That second coat that we put on is really going to solidify the color and make it look great. Okay, so I do want to talk about the mouth here. This is scored in, so we can paint right over those, and then we'll come back with black and cover it with black. So don't feel like you have to be careful with those either. The laser does a great job of creating these guidelines for us, so we're just going to paint right over them. Okay. And yours might not look as dark when you paint over them. You might just see the outline. I think I accidentally set mine to engrave as opposed to score. And I should have recut mine, but I was like, oh, it will be fine. So yours probably just shows an outline of the circle and not the engrave, which kind of gives it a different look. I prefer the outline. Mine was a mistake cut that I thought I'd just use up anyways. There we go. So then before it dries with the snowman, we have a line here that shows his where his head meets his body. Now we're putting on a scarf, but if you didn't want to put the scarf on and you wanted to see that and maybe you got some paint down inside there, use something sharp and skinny like a needle of some sort. This is a piercing tool, and just drag through that and pull that paint out. But do it before it dries, otherwise it will be hard to pull out. You can do that up around your circles if you want. I'm not going to worry about that because I'm going to just come in with black paint and it's going to fill those lines anyway, so that's all right. Now on the nose, this is just a guide. This isn't something that we need to worry about, so we don't have to pull any paint out of those because the nose is just going to sit on that. So there we go. All right, so let's paint the rest of these snowflakes here. And as you're painting your pieces on your tape, if you're finding that, you know, your tape is kind of bouncing around and being, you know, a troublesome piece of tape, or maybe you've taped it and they're far apart and it's hard to hold them, you could use your piercing tool or some other tool, even the back of a brush, to hold it while you paint it. And that also keeps your fingers off of the piece. And I can paint right up to that piercing tool and it doesn't bounce anymore. It's being held in place. And then I can hold it on a painted spot without smudging it to get the other side of it. So sometimes using this another tool to hold your pieces is helpful too. Especially like with skinny letters or small pieces. And you can always just hold it like with your fingernail, but I tend to smudge it with my finger, so I'm trying to get out of the habit of holding it with my hands. Okay, so I'm going to grab some brown out and the orange so we can get that nose and the hands painted. I'm going to use a makeup wedge for both of these pieces. I taught my last class for 2024 last night, which was super fun. And also a little bit of a relief. This season is always the busiest for classes. And so I try and fit as many as I can because that's when people want to craft. Although this season I had 2 that I had to cancel just because I didn't have the attendance. And I chalk that up to Facebook. I rely heavily on Facebook for advertising. And if this time of year everyone's paying for advertising more than I could probably pay, so I know a lot of my announcements and things always go unnoticed, so that's all right. Okay, everything has its first coat, so we're going to go back to the very first piece that I painted. We'll see how it feels. It's dry. Acrylic paints dry super fast, especially when you're painting in light coats, which is why we do it. I'm going to take my sanding block and just lightly sand it. Smooth it out, brush it off. We'll do the next piece. And I'll wait on that line of items because they're still wet. But that allows us to now do a second coat on the base. And this is where you're going to see those snowflakes, the white really fill in. And cover the wood really nicely. There we go. Okay, we'll come to the snowman. And the snowman's big enough that you can also use a brush on if you want. Just because I have this out, I tend to just use what I've already got going on. But you can use the makeup wedge like a brush. You can push and pull paint. Sometimes I'll just rub it in a circle like this and pull it around, push it around, just like I would a paintbrush, and it works just as good. I know crafters online who almost exclusively work with the makeup wedges now. They don't even use a brush, especially when they work with just small pieces like this. So don't feel like you have to pull out the brush to do this piece. Just use the makeup wedge like a brush and push and pull that paint around. There we go. It's got nice coverage there. It's got a spot right there that I'm going to tap some paint into. There we go. Okay, let's bring in this piece. And if you're really short on time, guys, you can always have a hairdryer on hand to help speed the process along. I have one sitting next to me for when I need it. All right, so after we put the second coat in, I will go through and add my details. And with this piece, I added a little blue tips. I added blue tips to my snowflakes, and we're going to use the makeup wedge for that. And it's super fun to add that ombre look. You'll find that I use it a lot for adding shadows and things. And it's just a fun way to use the makeup wedge, another way to create another style of paint, I guess you could call it. Another finish. Okay, so I kind of got a lot of paint on my nose, and it's got those lines in the nose that I don't want to necessarily fill in. So I'm going to just take a minute and take my piercing tool and drag that paint out of those lines, making them more prominent, bringing them back from being filled in and softened up. Okay. All right, so let's start with this piece. Let's bring out our blue. And I am going to use the makeup wedge that's got the white on it already. And I'm going to fill it up with white just like I would if I was going to paint with it. And now before I go and start painting, I'm going to take half of it and dip it just a bit in the blue. So you can see the blue. It's a big glob of blue on there. But we're half and half. Then I'm going to go on to a clean part of my plate here and just start tapping. And I kind of just go from left to right or right to left, it doesn't matter. But what I'm doing is I'm offloading some of that blue, but also blending it into the end there. So now it looks like this. Okay. And so now as I paint, I want the side that I have the blue on to touch all the outside of my snowflakes. So blue side is going to touch the outside, and then I'm just going to work my way in a circle around each snowflake. And I kind of go up and down each of these little legs. Start at the top, work my way down, and it just creates a soft little ombre. And eventually that blue is going to wear out. I can typically get one snowflake going on here. There we go. And let's see if I hold it really straight. Let me put something dark behind it. I think maybe that will help. There we are. See how pretty that blue tipped snowflake looks? So I love the look of that. I think it looks just so pretty. And you could do this with any color. If you didn't like this color blue, you could go with a darker blue and have it be kind of more of a midnight snowman, or whatever, a gray or a green, a pink, and have it reflect whatever it is maybe on the ground, because snowflakes are just water and they do reflect the whatever's around it. So the next step then for the next snowflake is I'm going to grab white on this side and blue on this side. Okay. So here we go. We've got both those colors, and now I'm just going to do that tapping, kind of get them blended in. There we go. We're filled back up. I'm going to do this big one again. Start with my big ones here. Just work my way around the edge of that snowflake. There we go. Okay, and we'll do that again. Fill the top with white, the bottom with blue, tap it out, and then go on to the next snowflake. Now some of them overlap, so you're going to hit the tips of some of the other snowflakes, and that's okay. And these smaller ones, I can do 2 in one shot. There we go. So now for the snowman, I'm not going to refill. I just want a very hint of a blue on the outside. So even just going to kind of pull that paint around the edge there. Just softly touching the edge of my snowflake with my blue. And it creates a shadow. And you can also pull it under the face here, or the head, although most of that's going to get covered up. So I kind of dusted it with a little bit of blue along the edge. It's very, very subtle. You can hardly see it. But that's going to help us with some shadows that we're going to put here in just a little bit. Okay. So then let's do these snowflakes. Same thing, load up with white and blue and then tap it out. And then we're just going to go in a circle, hitting the ends of those snowflakes with the blue. Okay, there we are. All right, I'm going to grab a baby wipe and I'm going to get a little bit of this brown. Now this step is optional, but I like to distress my pieces. So I'm going to drag some of that brown around my edge of my snowman just to give it a worn, rustic, dirty look. And along the bottom. So wherever I put my finger in that brown, I'm kind of just setting it right on the edge and lightly dragging that brown around the edge there. Can I see some of that brown there? I'm also going to put a line of that brown kind of where under the nose would be, just to give it a little bit of a shadow. Here, let me turn it around. So right there, I put a little bit of brown using that baby wipe. So it's kind of soft. It's not a hard line. If you do this method for distressing and adding those shadows and you get too much, you can always grab a clean part of your baby wipe and wipe it away. Okay. Let's add a little distressing to the bottom part of the nose. I like to darken up that nose just a little bit. Same thing, a little bit of that brown on my baby wipe. And I just rub it right into the bottom of my nose there. And there we go. So before I get into getting some of the lines and the detail lines on the snowman and whatnot, I'm going to glue it up. I like to put all my pieces kind of together and see where they lay before I add highlights and detail lines. So we're going to get our glue out. And if you haven't watched the supply video, make sure to go watch that. We talk about different types of glue that you can use. Now the most important part is getting this lined up along the bottom so it sits flat in your basket. And the other way that you can make sure you're lined up is also by the nose at the top. You want those two pieces to line up really well. There we go. Must be a big delivery day for my dog just to like be barking nonstop right now. Okay, I'm gonna throw some clamps on here to hold it together. I have a little bit of a wobble on my piece, so I need some glue just to help hold it down, or clamps to help hold the glue in place while it does its work. But next I can put my arms in while this is being held in place. let's see, which one does it go to? This one here. I forgot to mention that the arms are specific to one side or the other, so lay those out to make sure that you've got the right side painted. If you paint the wrong side, it's not a big deal. You can just flip it over and paint the right side and then glue it down. I usually remind people to check their pieces with letters. I forget that sometimes these pieces as well have a right and a wrong side. Okay. When you're taking your snowflakes off, be very careful. I typically try and hold the piece and peel the paper away from the back just to make sure I don't break any of the snowflake legs. The other thing is when you're working with small delicate pieces and tape, you can flip it over like this, and I'll put my finger here, and then which holds the snowflake letters or any other delicate piece, and then pull the tape away like this, and then I'll hold it here and pull the rest away. Keeping it sturdy on the table really helps make sure that we don't break those small little pieces. So like I said, these pieces are kind of just floating. You can put them wherever. I think I put this one on this side. There's no right or wrong, however you want to do it. Okay. And I'm going to clamp here and finish gluing up the rest. The only floating snowflake that is got a specific spot is this one here, which I think looks like a disco ball for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's the dots, I think. And so I'll place that one there and get that one done. We'll get our nose in here. Don't be afraid to move your piece around so you can see it from all angles and make sure that you get it in the right spot. I don't know how many times in the past where I've accidentally didn't do that, or I accidentally placed it in the wrong area, and by the time I got back around to it, it was set in stone, so that was kind of a bummer. Okay, all our pieces are glued on. The next thing I want to do is grab my liner brush here and some black. We'll throw some detail lines in there. We'll fill in his little mouth, and then we'll put our scarf on. I'm going to start by filling in his mouth, and these are supposed to be stones, rocks that, you know, you find, lumps of coal, so don't get too hung up on it being a perfect circle. It's okay if you color outside the lines on this. There. Okay. Then I'm going to take and add a line along the top here. Just a very soft, light brush stroke. I'll add a couple dots just for a little touch of whimsy. Just kind of working my way around his head here. And I'm going to pull some lines down along his body. There. Then I'm going to add some dark lines to the hands, just for some shadow. And again, the black adds a little bit of detail. And then we're going to go to the white and add some highlights to the hands. So a soft little light brush stroke gives you a nice thin line. And then you can add some snow to the top of his nose. And what I do is I'll load up my brush and then just tap, tap. It's not a brush stroke. I'm just kind of tapping that paint right on the tip there. And so we're just getting just the tip. Maybe it's snow, frost, whatever it might be. Just a little bit there. Okay. There we are. And the last thing I did on mine is I love doing the flakes that a paintbrush or a toothbrush does. I'm just kind of cleaning mine off here, flicking it to soften the bristles. And I'm going to use brown. So I dip my toothbrush in the brown here. And I'm going to flake it or flick it with my thumb. So it's like this. But I want to point it to my item here. And I'm just going to add some flecks. Tiny little flecks. Because, well, snowmans aren't really all that clean. There's usually dirt and leaves and grass in there. But there we are. There's that part of it. And now we can add his scarf. So I'm going to take it to the back through this hole. I'm going to bring it up from the back, right on the other side of his neck here. And then I'm going to just do a tie over. Which way do I want to go? Let's go this way. Did I even tie it? Yes, I tied it. There we go. So I just do one tie, and then I'm going to take this and fold it down like that, and I'm going to put a drop of glue here. Now I am going to switch glues because super glue doesn't work all that great, excuse my reach, with fabric because it soaks into the fabric and then my fingers stick to it. So I can't really hold it. So I'm using just a tacky glue or any sort of craft glue. And that will help hold this down. You're welcome to tie it any way that you want. And then once it's tied down, you can cut your tails, or tacked down, I should say, at an angle for however long you want them to be. It wasn't quite ready to be let go. So give it a few more minutes. But this is going to take just a few seconds, but there we are. We've got our little snowman with his scarf here. I think that's it. I did add some polka dots here, some more dots in blue. You can use the back of your brush for that. You can add some dots onto the snowflake if you want. Kind of have some fun with adding some little designs or little polka dot designs to your snowflakes in white or blue or whatnot. I think we're getting there. There we are. And then you're ready for decorating your basket, rustic pill, or mason jar. So there we are. Where are we at? Oof, I'm over. I was gabbing too much, you guys. All right, I'm going to let you go. I hope you have a fantastic week. Oops, look at there. I'm being impatient now. I better hold it. Actually, I'm just going to put a piece of tape on it and let the tape hold it. I've got other things to do. Okay. All right, guys, I hope you have a great week. I will be back tomorrow to do the Home Sweet Home. Don't feel overwhelmed. You do not have to do these right away. Take your time. I know it's a busy time with the holidays. If you have time, great. If not, it can wait till after the holidays. So, all right, guys, happy crafting. Bye.